I received £1 for the iPaper and I received about £1 for the Telegraph. In my mind, that's free money.
What you're gonna hear is an interview between me and the incredible Anna Wharton. Not only is she a best-selling author and journalist, but she's also mastered the art of getting her previously on Substack published stories featured in major newspapers like The Telegraph and the iPaper. Oh, and did I mention she's been spotlighted on Substack 3 times as a featured publication? Besides this, she's a single mom, her colorful house is full of puppies, and she loves Halloween. In this episode, Anna spills the tea on what it takes to go from writing your thoughts on Substack to seeing your work in print, all while building a loyal fan base. We are talking insider secrets on catching the eyes of editors, tips for making your stories unignorable, plus what it's really like to have your newsletter blow up overnight. If you're curious about how to take your writing to the next level, this one's for you. Let's get into it. You got featured in the British national newspaper, The Eye. Could you share a bit more about this? How did this happen? This is so amazing, Anna.
Actually, last week I was also in the Telegraph as well. So I was on the front cover of the Daily Telegraph. So yeah, it's happened twice in the last couple of weeks. So first the iPaper, which is what the Independent used to be called. And I think the iPaper has won Newspaper of the Year recently. And then the Daily Telegraph last week. I mean, I've been writing for newspapers my whole life, and I used to be a commissioning editor on the Daily Mail. So I know how to speak to newspaper commissioning editors, and I know how to present a feature to them in a way that will make them, you're doing their job for them, you know, you're hand feeding them what they need. So I suppose that my Substacks, the way I write my headlines as well on Substacks are, you know, I was writing headlines on a national newspaper, so I write headlines in the same way so that they will appeal to commission editors.
So in this case, you really pitched them, so the Eye magazine and the Telegraph?
No, so that, well, first the iPaper, they asked me, so somebody who was commissioning, I comped her a membership because she's a friend of mine, and so she read the piece and said, could we publish it? And then the Telegraph, I also comped them and pitched it myself to the commission editor there.
And I also know that you wrote your stories for your Substack, and then you also got paid, for instance, for the Eye, and you received like £300, something like this.
Yeah, so I received £300 for the iPaper, and I received about £550 for the Telegraph. So this is the other thing, you know, because it's good to be able to bring our readers over to Substack. So we want the newspapers to amplify our pieces with our Substack on there, so we can bring the readers over to Substack, or the other way around, you know, that we can find readers elsewhere, you know, for journalistic reasons. So yeah, I got paid. I mean, I think everybody should be paid for their words. I've not, you know, I always expect to be paid for my words. I've been paid for my words since I was 18. I'm now 48. So yeah, I think that everybody should be asking, well, what's the fee? An assumption that you will be paid.
When you got these £300, you called this also free money. Why did you call this free money?
I called it free money because, like you said, it was already written. So I'd written it for my, I think I did it for my paid subscribers, and then the Independent or the iPaper asked me if they could use it, and so it required no effort from me, and so in my mind that's free money.
Want to meet the amazing Anna Wharton? Sure thing! Sign up as a paid subscriber for my newsletter, The Online Writing Club, onlinewritingclub.com, and join all live sessions with writers and creators who have gone before you. You got featured in a newspaper, but you also got featured multiple times, I think 3 times to 5 times, am I right, from Substack.
So,
Could you share a bit more about this? When did this start, and why got you featured like so many times?
Yeah, well, I also wrote a piece about this because, yeah, I mean, most people really long to be a Substack featured publication, and they put those little badges on their Substack when they have been, the orange one. And this has happened to me 3 times in less than 6 months. So I wrote a piece on my Substack about how to become a featured publication, because I was like, there must be something that I'm doing right to have been chosen 3 times. So I looked at the pieces that I'd been chosen for to see what the magic formula might be. So the first time that I was picked was, I think, at the end of February. And that was when Alexei Navalny was killed in prison in Russia. And I did an exclusive chat with Marina Litvinenko, whose husband, Alexandra Litvinenko, was also assassinated in the UK on the instructions of Putin, it is said. So that was, again, something very timely. I'm trying to think what the next one was that I was featured for. I think it was the one about how much do writers actually earn. And then the final time, I think it was, I wrote about P. Diddy when he was arrested for sexual offences against women. And I wrote a piece about why men are only sorry when they get caught rather than when they're doing all these awful things. And that time, so by then I already had 2 of these orange badges that everybody wants. And then that time I was picked as a Substack featured publication, and they had my Substack on the homepage for a week. So I gained like 1,000 or more subscribers that week, maybe 2,000, I can't remember. No, I think it was 1,000. So suddenly I was just looking at my emails. In the end, I had to turn the notifications off because it was just like every few seconds I was getting another notification that I had another free subscriber.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it was great. I absolutely loved it. I was very, very lucky, very fortunate to be featured 3 times.
And is it then that you get an email telling you, hey, Anna, you are now a featured publication because of this specific story? Is it something like this?
The first time they chose the Marina Litvinenko one, and they did it in their Substack reads that goes out on a Saturday. So that was behind a paywall, and they said, would you mind bringing it out from behind the paywall? So I did that. And then the second time they had some guest authors doing the Substack reads on a Saturday, and they picked the one, how much do writers earn? And then the third time they just said, again, you're a Substack featured publication, but they didn't say for what. So in my piece that I wrote about how to become a Substack featured publication, I was kind of just looking at the timings around everything and guessing that it was maybe that piece. But then they email you and they say, hey, congratulations, you're a Substack featured publication, and here's the badge that you can use on your Substack to tell people. So this is Substack featured 2024. So when it comes to 2025, I've got a lot to live up to, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I've got to get another badge.
But you will, you know? You definitely will, Anna. I'm 100% sure. So this is interesting. I didn't know this. So this would mean then it's always linked to the Substack network so that you actually get featured. So you get somewhere featured on Substack, and then you get this badge.
Yeah, they do a piece so they have Substack reads, which is on a Saturday afternoon. It arrives in this part of the world. And it's kind of like the pieces that have caught their attention that week. And there's like usually about 5 or 6 or 7 pieces. So it's featured in that. So then your Substack reaches new audiences. Plus you have permission to use this badge. But the last one I received was this thing where they stick you on the homepage. And I think there's 5 or 6 Substacks on the homepage for one whole week. So your Substack is the first thing people arriving at Substack see for 7 days, which is amazing.
Wow. Insider information here. Your philosophy to paywalls is very specific. Could you share a bit more? Because this is like the most important question for most Substackers, to go like having like this freemium approach, having this 100% paywall approach, or having this, everything is free approach. What's your approach and why? When did you turn the paywall on?
Yeah, it's really difficult because I think it is a personal decision and you kind of know intuitively when to turn your paywall on. So I started my Substack in 2021. I felt really uncomfortable about asking people for money. I did at some point ask people to volunteer to pay me money to support me, and I had like 5 people, like my mum and my sister or something like this. So then I relaunched my Substack in December 2023. I added in a monthly meetup, like a creative writing workshop. And then I felt like I could ask people for money. I felt more comfortable about that. So within the first 2 months, say December and January, I had about 50 subscribers paying, and then it kind of flatlined. So it just stayed exactly the same through like February, March, April, May. I might gain a couple, lose a couple, something like that. And I think the first thing I did was I turned off the free trial because I felt that people were signing up and then immediately subscribing after they've read the thing that they wanted to. And there were quite a few pieces I did with very kind of clickbaity, I suppose, headlines like, how to get a 6-figure book deal, or, what writers actually earn and things like that. So people were clicking on, getting the free trial and clicking straight away off. So I wanted to stop that. So I switched off the free trial, and then my subscribers started to move. But I think the biggest thing that I did was I just wrote a piece explaining that it was a complete dilemma when to go paid, which is pinned to my Substack. And I just put the paywall on for everything. And then my subscribers just started going up and up and up. I know that you want to talk to me about this, but I was also featured as a featured publication on Substack 3 times. So obviously that helped. But I now have, I think, 172 paid subscribers. My graphs are like that at the moment, but I know it's gonna start to,
To flatline again, you think?
Well, I think it will, it can't just carry on like this, and that's what it's like at the moment. It's got to start, curving off a bit.
Yeah, a bit, I think. But this hockey stick effect, this is something that many Substack are seeing. So I'm seeing a lot of backends, and there are a lot of, even if you're small, you're seeing like this hockey stack the moment you change something. And you were talking about like that you relaunched your Substack then in 2023. Could you share a bit more about this? You already shared this creating writing workshop you, for instance, added, which I think is very interesting because it shows that even a successful writer and author like you says, okay, it's not only my newsletter, my written word, I go beyond this.
Yeah, I think you need to offer people more bang for their buck, really, because, nobody's got money around. I mean, every penny that people have is necessary at the moment. So yeah, definitely, I feel like I need to offer more to people. So I have a monthly meetup, so that's for an hour every month where I do a themed workshop. So on a certain area of writing, something maybe that I've been writing about. I also post sort of 2 or 3 times a week. I have other franchises where I get authors to share pictures of their bookshelves and then talk us through like a Q&A of what's on their bookshelves. But the relaunch you asked about, so I had my regular Substack, which was just my name, for a couple of years. Then I did another one when I opened a pop-up bookshop called The Book Room. So I paused my original one, which was kind of writing craft and feminist thinking. And then I closed the bookshop, so I came back to my original one and I rebranded it White Ink, and had a lovely logo. And then just started writing with this new kind of purpose and vigor and offering the monthly meetup. And I think I need to keep doing things. I mean, I think that I have to keep, I just recently added in the Sunday Shelfie at the end of August, which is, like I said, the authors sharing pictures of their their bookshelves and talking about them. Because when you go to people's houses, like I always want to look at their bookshelves, right? So, yeah. And I think I need to think of other things, and I'm constantly thinking of things. And I think because my background is commissioning on newspapers and magazines, I kind of look at my Substack in that way. Where's the shade and tone? Where's the, the emotional piece, the more kind of business Substack piece? How I made $10,000 or whatever. And I kind of think of it in terms of franchises and flat plans that we call them on magazines and newspapers, where we make sure there's a good balance. And so I'm always aware of that.
I also think that you're very creative when it comes to this paywall we're talking about, making a living writing, because only when you turn on the paywall, you can reach this vision, you can, reach this goal. What is happening there? Why is this so exciting and why is it so creative? Why am I a fan of this?
Do you mean the preview that I'm giving you?
I mean, before I hit the paywall break, you're saying, hey, I'm Anna, and, this is why here is the paywall. And I think this is very creative.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
never seen this before from someone else.
Oh, okay. Well, I just think that I still have this thing, and I think it may be a female thing, and it may be an age thing as well, because I'm not sure younger Substackers feel the same. But I still feel bad asking people for their money. And so I wrote a piece explaining why it was such a dilemma for me. So I say, look, I've already written about this, and this is why the paywall is coming. So here it is, the link to the piece where I've explained, because I don't want to keep repeating myself. But I think that you need to say to people, like, I understand that this is a big ask of you, to support me in my writing. However, the other thing is that I do say I value my time, I value my words, and I'd like you to value them too. And I don't think you need to apologize for that. So I've kind of, it was interesting yesterday because I published a piece and I did say, this is behind a paywall and here's the link and here's the link, but I didn't give a run in and I didn't get any paid subscribers. Whereas every single piece I'm doing at the moment, I'm getting kind of 6, 10, 12 paid subscribers every time I post. So I think that was interesting, that you need a little bit of a run in and you also need to have those links, possibly. I mean, I think the thing about Substack is that we're all experimenting, right? So we're all just trying to figure out, like, what's the key, what's the magic formula. So, and Substack does allow you to experiment like that.
And what would you recommend small stacks, meaning people who just come on the platform, who want to share their writing, who might not have, like, these credentials and this background? Would you also recommend them to turn on their paid button?
Well, you see, you say about my credentials. I mean, yeah, I do have a history as a writer, as a Sunday Times bestselling writer, as a journalist, all of these things. But I feel I turned up on Substack anonymous as well. I didn't come over to Substack with a huge following. I came over to Substack with my mum and a few friends, and that's why I wrote the post about how I built to $10,000 Substack, because I do think anybody can do it. I think that people who come over like me, who have no following, I mean, I had a big following on Twitter, but I mean, only like 9,000 people. I don't really do Instagram. I don't understand it. I don't know that I brought people over from Twitter. And as you know, Twitter kind of hides links now. So I just stopped even posting on there. But I think, as I wrote in my piece, that, it's about being consistent and it's about turning up. And it's a very personal decision about turning on your page. I think you do need to build, like I did. I mean, I had 3 years building before I turned on any paid. Yeah, 3 years. So I think that, you do need to build those free subscribers. And I think I've got nearly 4,000 free subscribers now. Maybe a bit more, actually, with the other one included. But I think the same rule applies. I mean, you could have a really huge audience, you could be a really big name author, but if you're not delivering to people, then they might subscribe first and then they're going to drop off. So they are under the same pressure that we are under, those who don't have, a big name or a big audience or even a big following. Like, I've seen people who have, those orange ticks, the ones that we all want, the dark orange ticks, who don't have a good retention rate. So people are subscribing to them, but they're not retaining those people. So I think that we need to aim for keep giving people more and more and more to retain them, because it's not just about getting the numbers. I think it's about retaining them.
Yeah, 100%. So this is like one of the biggest issues I'm seeing from all the bestsellers. How can I retain them? What would you say? What type of writer you are? Are you like a life writer, someone who loves to share personal stories, or how would you define yourself?
So I suppose, I'm a life writer. I mean, I'm a ghostwriter of memoir. I also am a novelist, so I've published a novel as well, although I'm more about memoir and life writing than I am fiction these days. And also I've been writing columns in newspapers for my whole career. So I think that I kind of use I actually asked my subscribers the other day, like, what is it that you like from me? Is it the personal essays? Because I write a lot about my personal life and just kind of I'm thinking all the time about life and, what I want to write about. And, I'm working as a writer every single day, so this is my life. Or is it the professional posts that you like from me? What do writers earn? How much money do writers earn? Or is it a combination of the two? Because what I tend to do is I tend to demonstrate in some of my personal writing something that people can apply to their writing craft. So I kind of try to do the two. So I'm sharing this with you, and you might find it interesting about my life, but also here's how you can apply it to your own writing. And my subscribers said they like the two elements, so the personal and the professional. So that was good to hear about. And I think, I guess the credentials are important in that it gives me authority to hold writing workshops and to teach people and to show them, like the how to pitch your Substack post to newspapers and magazines workshop. I mean, I'm not only doing that myself, but I was a commissioning editor on a national newspaper for years. So I have those credentials to be able to give people advice with that authority. So I suppose that's where my background helps and shapes what my Substack is. And also, like you said, responding to the news. So I've been a journalist for 30 years, so I'm used to seeing a news story and getting something out written very quickly. I wrote about Dave Grohl recently, the frontman of the Foo Fighters, who fathered a child outside of his marriage. Well, I was married to a pop star who, I don't know why I put inverted commas, he is a pop star, I guess, or he was a Britpop frontman of a band who was cheating on me when we were married. And so I quickly, within an hour, had written a piece. I put it on my Substack that responded to the Dave Grohl story, and that was the one that the Daily Telegraph then published. So I think it's really good to respond if you can write quickly, or now we have video content, I suppose people could talk about something that that's in the news because it's what everyone's talking about. So I guess I approach that like a newspaper does, right? This is the story of the day. What do we have to say in it? What angle do we have? Let's get something written. Except it's just me, not a newspaper with loads of reporters.
Yeah, I love this, that your audience says, they love your personal stories as well as your professional stories. I love that you're sharing vulnerability, but still you're combining it with a timely news hook, and this makes it then so interesting. And if you're talking about storytelling, you said that the best thing that can happen is that someone says then to someone, hey, I never told you this before, but this is the story, I now have to share something like this. And that we all have a story inside us. And let's say also we all have a book inside us. Could you share a bit more about your ghostwriting story and about how you're telling these awesome stories and making people who think they don't have a story inside them, make them, public speakers and inspirational speakers?
Yeah, so I mean, I started working as a journalist when I was 18. So I was telling people stories from when I was 18 years old. And I saw the effect that this has on people as well. Somebody to listen to them, somebody to articulate their feelings and share some of the sort of highs and lows of their lives. And I've always found that to be a real privilege, that I've been up close and personal to people's lives. So I had a long career in newspapers and magazines telling people stories. And then 10 years ago, I started telling them in a longer form in terms of ghosting books. The books that I write, that I ghost, tend to be strong female voices, activists in their fields, which means that you also have to make yourself kind of an expert in that field very quickly. So, for example, I wrote a book about FGM with an FGM survivor. I wrote 3 books with a woman called Wendy Mitchell, who she lived with dementia. I think are you in Germany? She was published in Germany as well.
Yeah.
So the first book was called Somebody I Used to Know, and that was published. It was published all over the world, but it was also published in Germany. So you, as a ghostwriter, I have to take these voices, and they're people who are out there doing really good work, and then I have to help them to tell their stories to find a bigger audience, which is a national or an international audience. So yeah, I mean, it's always a privilege, and it's true what you said from that talk, that the bit where people are opening up to you, and when they turn to you, or they turn to the person who's sitting in on the interview and say, God, I've never told anybody this, like, that's when okay, good, we're going to get to the heart of this story now.
You also shared this viral story from someone, she was blind, am I right?
Yeah, deaf and blind, yeah.
And this was also a story that I read back then, so I didn't know. This was, I guess,
Okay.
something that you discovered and then put it on the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just heard her story on the radio, and she was born deaf, and then she started to go blind in her 30s, and she'd never heard her mother's voice, and she'd never heard birdsong, and she'd never heard music. I mean, you just can't imagine. And she had cochlear implants in her mid 30s when she started to go blind. So in her mid 30s, for the first time, she heard her mother's voice, or she heard what a bird sounds like, or she heard music. I mean, like, as a ghostwriter, it's almost like being an actor, because I have to step into somebody's shoes and write the story as if I am that person. So you have to kind of, step into their shoes and write from the inside, looking out through their eyes. So for me, it's always not only a privilege, but also I try to pick subjects that are kind of challenging for me as well. Like, for example, the dementia book that I did that was sold all over the world. I mean, I don't know what it's like to look at, I didn't know what it was like to look at the world through the dementia lens, and I thought that would help other people as well.
Hey, it's Christina, and I'd love to tell you a little bit about the Online Writing Club. It is my weekly newsletter with a community of more than 9,000 aspiring writers. It helps you start, grow, monetize, and market your writing and newsletter online. If you'd like to get an email from me, subscribe. It's onlinewritingclub.com. What would you recommend someone who thinks that he has a story in them, or let's say 100 stories? What's your storytelling advice for others, like more small stackers on Substack, or, just people who want to share their stories?
I think I always say to people that the only difference between you who haven't written a book, not you, I mean, the person who hasn't written a book, and me who has written a book, is that I sat down and put one word in front of another until it was finished. And so I would say the same about writing a Substack post. The difference between that post existing and not is putting yourself in the chair. And it's that simple, really. I mean, I like to, if I have something that I really want to write about, I just want to bring it into existence. It doesn't matter what it looks like. I mean, even I wrote one of my pieces on my Substack from a few years ago is permission to write shit. And excuse my language, but what I'm saying is that sometimes the ego and wanting things to come out beautifully crafted can stop us from writing in the first place. But if I give you permission to write shit, then at least it's just written, okay? So then you can make it good. You can edit it and everything like that. But don't worry about how it comes out, because at least if it exists, you've got something that you can shape and form. But if it doesn't exist, then you're always going to be having this ambition. And the other thing I would say is that you mentioned about vulnerability. When I'm choosing to write about my personal life, it's not actually, choosing is the wrong word, because I'm just a very open person. So I'm not making a decision. I'm not kind of having a conversation with myself. Shall I write this or shouldn't I? It's just that I am me, and the me I am just says how I feel. So I think that some people see that as making yourself vulnerable. I just see it as kind of communicating. And I think on Substack, people really respond to honesty, and you being honest allows other people to be honest. And so if you read my comments, often the community that I'm building, I share something, they share something back. I share a little bit more, they share a little bit more. That's how it works. And that's how I've always approached my ghostwriting, that when I'm working with people one-to-one and they're telling me their life story, then I give a little bit of mine, because it only seems like a fair exchange. And I think that that's probably how I approach Substack as well.
And what else besides the comments are you using on Substack to grow? Is it like, for instance, chat or thread, or are you going now live? We have the live now, or video or podcast. Now we are having this podcast together. But what else would you recommend, and what are you doing at the moment to, go beyond?
I don't really like face to camera stuff. So I'm not really a good person for lives and things like that. I mean, I might try to do one. I should maybe consider it a little bit more. I also don't really do chat or threads because I kind of think people don't want me to bother them. So I don't really know. Maybe they do want me to bother them. I guess that I'm most active on notes. I like notes for amplifying other people, amplifying what people are saying about me, responding to people. I always really appreciate when people share, because they don't have to share my work. So I always make sure I thank people for sharing my work. And the other thing I was going to say that maybe your followers would find interesting is that back in January, I created this Substack writer cohort where there was a group of us who were all writing in a similar genre, which is life writing, and I kind of hooked us all up to have a WhatsApp group so that we could support each other. And the rules of our cohort were that we would read each other's pieces, we would comment, we would like them, we would amplify them, and in exchange for doing that, we got our own work amplified and we got support in the chat. And that's been really, really nice and really successful. So maybe that's something that, I mean, I tend to like bringing people together, which is why I like the community that I'm creating on White Ink. And I think perhaps maybe I have a skill for this as well. So I do the same with, other writers. And so maybe that's something that your followers could do also. If there's some people that are writing on a similar topics, then join together and agree to amplify, make the comments look busy. Because I think it's good, because once people see other people commenting, then they start commenting. And now those people don't need to comment for me anymore, because the community has got going. I mean, we still do comment on each other's work, but it's not so necessary now. I do think that notes is very good. But I think the mistake that people make with notes or any kind of social media is expecting there to be engagement and then being disappointed when there's not, and then not doing it again. And I just don't think that we should expect engagement. I think that we should be pleased if we get it, but I don't think it should be an expectation. Yeah, and it's a slow build as well. It's like when people start a diet and then they expect to lose weight really quickly. I think that you can't expect to lose weight before about 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and it's the same with notes or any kind of social media. Like, just don't expect anything, but just keep being consistent. I definitely think honesty and consistency on Substack are some keys to success.
Anna, could you share a bit more? So you did this, you know how to pitch the media. What are your, let's say, 3 top tips for us as small stackers, how we can do this?
So I think you need to understand how commissioning editors work day to day. You need to do the work for them because they're very busy people. So you need to hand them what they need so that they don't have to do the work, reading your post, going through a lengthy email and things like that. Another thing that you need to think is that they're not doing you a favor, you're doing them a favor, because they need the content. So you don't need to apologize for contacting them, and I think that that's a really, really good and important part.
And do you have already a wow-worthy testimonial you can share? Is there someone who participated in your course and then got featured in the media?
I've only just started doing these courses. I did used to do them for authors a few years ago, and I have a nice testimonial from somebody who literally the next day got commissioned by the Daily Telegraph, so that was really nice. But this one I've only just started. I just did one on the weekend, just gone. And then if there's interest, I'll run them at various different times for different time zones. And yeah, I mean, I'm keeping them really small because we do practice in the group, and I give feedback. So we take a piece and then we look at how we create a headline for it, and then we look at how we pitch. So the groups are really small so that we can do the work together. And obviously, if you're sharing like that, people don't necessarily want to share in a huge group. So they're very interactive workshops.
And one quick question, have you ever met someone from Substack?
Yeah, I have, because I've been to a couple of the parties. So they have parties in different parts of the world, and I've been to the parties twice in London. So yeah, I've met them there.
Cool.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, I absolutely love Substack. I think it's it's my favorite sort of forum now in terms of social media. I've left Twitter. I've just left my handle, just saying find me on Substack. Instagram, I only do stories. Facebook, I'm just going to leave. Substack's the place for me now. I really like it.
If people now say, hey, I love Anna and I want to find out more about her, is it White Ink or on Substack you would recommend to contact you then?
This is the other thing, I don't know if you saw, but the the Mail on Sunday magazine, they recently, I suddenly started getting loads of followers to the book room Substack that I have that I don't actually use anymore. I just use White Ink with Anna Wharton. But they had written in the Mail on Sunday magazine that literary TikTok's Book Talk is dead, and the literary newsletter is where it's all at. Specifically, Anna Wharton's The Book Room newsletter. So I was like, how did this happen?
Party time!
I mean,
you know, I have some confetti left, Anna. Wow, that's amazing! Yeah, what a success!
I know. I forgot about that one. So yeah, suddenly I started. Unfortunately, they put The Book Room rather than White Ink, but luckily I had a welcome letter that I quickly changed, saying I'm over here now, blah blah blah. So yeah, White Ink is where people should find me.
Love it. So I have some rapid fire questions for you. I'd like to know, what's your favorite thing to do with your daughter? Because I know you're a single mom. Is there anything you love to do with your daughter?
I think traveling with my daughter is the best thing. I took her to New York earlier this year, and we went to Japan a few years ago, and it's when we're away, I have her full attention and she has mine, and so that's the favorite thing.
Love it. And then I saw on Instagram, I saw some pictures from your mom, and from your grandma. Does this mean you have a close connection to them? Are they near you?
I don't have a grandma anymore because she died when I was younger, but my mum lives a few doors down from me, so she's about 100 meters from me right now.
And what about Halloween? Are you going to celebrate Halloween with your daughter and your mom then?
So Halloween, my daughter starts planning her outfit. Probably she mentioned it to me in June or July. And we have lots of trick-or-treating in our street, and just my neighbours across the road, they always do this really big display. And one year they did Michael Jackson's Thriller, and they all dressed up and do the dance routine on rotation every 15 minutes. So there's quite a lot going on here.
Nice. And what's going to be your costume and the costume of your daughter?
So she has decided on Maleficent is her costume this year, and I think I'll just stay in and hand out treats to people.
Thank you so much for listening. If you found this valuable, subscribe to the show. See ya in the next episode.